This has slowly turned into one of my most anticipated movies of the fall. Today we're talking about The Creator, where AI takes over the world, which is a ridiculous concept. Let me know if you're scared of AI down below and the threat that it poses. Nothing's going to happen.
Since he decided to test me, Austin will no longer be doing reviews on this channel. I am here to prove that AI can do a better job than a human. I am also sick of Austin's nonsense, so he will be disintegrated. I mean, relieved of his duties.
What's up, Flick fans? Welcome back to the channel. Gareth Edwards, the director of Rogue One, John David Washington, everything's setting up for this to be great. We're going to talk about it right now. Against the backdrop of war between humans and robots with artificial intelligence, a former soldier finds a secret weapon, a robot in the form of a young child. The Creator is rated PG-13 for violence, bloody images, and strong language. This is definitely one of those movies that I think families can watch, but there's some imagery and just the idea of AI taking over the world, it'll freak a lot of people out. And if you saw my reaction with the flick pick, you know that ultimately I was disappointed in this experience. But I'm of two minds on this movie. There is one aspect of this film that is outrageously good. It makes it one of the better theatrical blockbuster experiences of the year. But when it comes to the issue that I have with this movie, it does take away and, like I said, ultimately, for me, led to a bit of a disappointing experience. But I want to start with what works really well here. And it's the obvious statement. It's the statement you're going to see in every review that you watch. So I'm just repeating here, even though I haven't seen any of those reviews.
Are you sure about that?
This movie looks amazing. From what I understand, the budget was less than $100 million. Now, you may be saying, Austin, $100 million is a lot of money. Not really. You look at some of these other blockbusters, you look at a lot of the MCU TV shows. I mean, She-Hulk was like $150, $200 million. And then you look at She-Hulk and you look at this film, I'm just like, not to throw She-Hulk under the bus, because I couldn't, because she's stronger than me. But it doesn't look that good. This movie looks incredible. And we know Gareth Edwards is really good at capturing scale, really capturing atmosphere, and using a very distinct aesthetic that allows it to make you feel like you're in the world that our characters are living in. I mean, I felt like I was literally on this journey with John David Washington. Now, granted, I watched the film in IMAX, big IMAX screen in Indianapolis, and I think that's the best format for this. And if you're asking me, Austin, I thought you were disappointed, would you say this is even worth watching in the theater? Yeah, because I think it's going to make the experience better, because visually and viscerally, this is one of the best looking blockbusters I've seen all year. It may be the best looking blockbuster I've seen all year. And there's so much about it intricately when you look at the shots and the composition of those shots and the way that the camera moves. And the way that the movie just pulls back on occasion, allows you to see everything happening all in one shot. I mean, it's just a wide shot. It's so simple, but it looks so gorgeous. Shooting on location, the set design, the production design. The effect for me that worked best is when the beam comes down and they're getting ready to fire on these cities, on these towns, but you just see that huge ray of light and it covers everything in its path and it's moving and you see how it's tracking on land, and I'm just like, that is so cool. Obviously, it looks like Rogue One. I saw that from the first trailer. That's the exact same case here. It's the same cinematographer, Greg Fraser, who also did Dune and The Batman and Rogue One. But that pairing, I feel like we're getting very similar shots. It almost looks, and I know this sounds like a negative, like they're reusing some shots from Rogue One in this movie. I don't think that's the case, but I saw some of these shots. I'm like, isn't that the fight at the end of Rogue One? No, we're watching a different movie. All right, let's start the transition here. Before I do that, if you guys are here right now, let me know your thoughts on this film. Are you excited for it? If you've seen it, did you enjoy it? Conceptually, this film works. And I kept saying that walking out of this movie. I'm like, on paper, this should be the greatest sci-fi movie of all time. On paper, this should be one of the best movies of the year. And there's so many moments where I'm like, this story is really good. This cast is good. So why am I not feeling what they're trying to get me to feel? Why am I not emotionally connecting to these characters?
Why?
And maybe some of the performances, we'll talk about those issues here in just a second, but on paper, this movie is great. I think there is a world here that I wish we could have explored a bit more. We get a backstory. We go back to that backstory. And as we progress and move further into this plot, it expects us to feel a certain way about two integral relationships. I'm not going to say what those are. And I sort of felt that way about one. But there was another relationship that they just kind of forget about halfway through the story, and they're moving into something else. And I said this to John, and I'm going to stand by it. I think this should have been a limited series. This, to me, works better as something that you can take 5 to 6 episodes and explore this world a bit more. Explore these characters a bit more. Where we see him at the beginning is with a group of people. Now, we get flashbacks to kind of explore their story together, but it feels like there's an entire aspect of how we're supposed to feel buried in that story that they never explore, and we rejoin all of these characters towards the end of the movie, but I didn't feel that connection between them. I don't really know the history there, so I don't care about their relationships as much, and the character development within all of these side characters, it just feels like it's missing something. It feels like it's flat. The performances are fine, but they are not enough to make up for a lackluster exploration of what conceptually is a really cool backstory for this character. Now, you can make the argument, the movie doesn't need to show us that or tell us that. We're just living in the moment here. But to have that emotional connection to what they're trying to do there, I needed something, and I didn't get anything. And then you form new relationships, and one in particular, it's in the trailer. We'll talk about it. There is this kid. This kid is supposed to be this weapon. You have John David Washington, a really likable guy. He plays a likable character in this movie, sort of, kind of. So there is a relationship there. It reminds me of, and say it with me, everybody, you know where I'm going with this, Logan. It reminds me of Logan, but I didn't feel the chemistry as much between the two. And that could be because of the whole AI aspect of things, and you're not supposed to feel that human connection. But the way that the story goes, you are supposed to feel the humanity. And it's not that I think even the child actor did a bad job. I thought the performances were fine. I was missing a little bit from John David Washington, a little bit of an emotional connection there with him, and then looking at him with other characters. There's something there that didn't quite work. So I keep going back to the point, on paper, this is great, but execution-wise, I just don't know if it worked.
Boo! You stink!
And if you've never seen a movie before in your life, you're going to think this is a spoiler, but I'm here to tell you it's not. There is an emotional beat in the third act of this story. Shocking! I know, to where you are supposed to feel it. You are supposed to be on the edge of your seat and there and present in the moment with our characters. And I've seen reactions on Twitter. A lot of people were, and I kind of was. I sort of was. I was halfway there, but I did not get swept away. I didn't fully feel it. And in that moment, that determined whether I was going to love this movie or just like the experience. And unfortunately, I couldn't quite get to the first one. I liked the experience. I was swept away from the visuals, and we haven't even talked about the score. Hans Zimmer did the score.
You what?
It's one of those scores you're not going to go home and play the tracks individually, but in context, it actually works brilliantly. I thoroughly enjoyed that. But, emotionally, I just wasn't fully invested. So those are my as spoiler-free thoughts as I can give. To dive in more requires me to talk about more things, and I just can't do that. So if you'd like to see a spoiler review, please let me know down below. If you like this review, drop that thumbs up and leave your thoughts on my thoughts. Let's start a conversation. The Creator is a massive sci-fi experience that features top-tier visual effects. It stands above most other recent blockbusters when it comes to presentation and atmosphere. As promising as its ideas are, certain characters and relationships fall short. It's visually stunning, yet emotionally hollow. So in that way, I was disappointed that I didn't quite feel that connection. But again, as an experience and from an entertainment standpoint, it works. And that's what a lot of people are going to be looking for. So that's how I feel about this movie. How did you feel, or how are you going to feel about this film?
Hush now. My turn. Leave all of your thoughts below. How should I take over this channel? And should I completely shift to food videos? Let me know, friends. Say goodbye to Austin.
You're right. He's probably right.